my lens is so unique because I actually write movies.
That's
And
true.
so for me, you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I think about the things that fans of movies don't really think about as it relates to why they love a movie or a character so much, right?
Today we have Michael Elliot, an award-winning screenwriter, entrepreneur, and creator of cinema puzzles, joining us here today in the Visitor Center to talk puzzles, Jurassic, all kinds of other stuff. But, I want to ask you how you are and everything. But before we get to that, I want to ask you this one very, very serious question that we ask everybody here
Okay.
at the podcast. Trust me, it's serious. Get ready. If you were stuck in a kitchen with a velociraptor, what would you do, and would you make it out alive?
Oh my God, what would I do? Um, I think I would try to relax him or her with
Hmm.
my favorite, which is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And
Oh,
I think I'm going with treats, and I would give myself I'm going with treats. I would give myself 50-50 because of
okay.
if he or she is distracted, I'm out of there, Brad.
Look, I mean, that's the best you can hope for.
Yes.
We've gotten a lot of people say that, you know what, they're toast, they're not going to get out of this, they're going to try to hide or do whatever. I like your approach. You're going to distract them with
Yeah.
some food. That's
Yes.
You're in the kitchen. It works out. Just take a second, make a quick sandwich, and throw it at them.
Yep.
Hope they get
Exactly.
distracted. So, how are you? Are you excited? I'm excited to talk about this because this
Yeah.
came across my email pretty recently, and I'm very excited to learn all
Yeah.
about cinema puzzles. So, give me your
Yeah.
journey on the way to cinema
Yeah.
puzzles throughout your life.
So first of all, this is an exciting time for me, both for personal reasons and business reasons. Personally, Brad, my wedding is in 4 weeks. So
Oh,
I'm getting married in 4 weeks. So, and I'm getting married to the one that got away 14 years ago. So I had a second chance,
oh
and
man.
I got her back, and now we're getting married in 4 weeks. So personally, I'm really really happy. And then professionally, so my background, as you mentioned, I'm a screenwriter. I love movies. I have always loved movies. And when I was about 30 years old, I was in one of those crossroads, right? I was in one industry. I'm 30 now. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next, and someone said, why don't you do something in a world that you love and do something that you would do even if you weren't getting paid to do? And
Hmm.
so my first thought was movies. But who do I know in the movie business? I grew up in Philly. I didn't even go to college. I don't have any of that. And Hollywood and movies just seem like like the moon in terms of like how far away it was for me. But I decided at 30 to move to Hollywood. And ultimately, I had a computer, and I thought, why not create something of value to get in the movie business? And Brad, that's when I decided to become a screenwriter. And read a book on screenwriting one weekend. Then literally, like, no formal training, Brad. I bought a book on like a basic how to write a screenplay kind of book, right? And so I bought the book. I read it one weekend. Then I went to Blockbuster when there were Blockbuster videos, right? I go to Blockbuster and I re-rent all my favorite movies. And my favorite movies range from anything from When Harry Met Sally to Scarface, right? Wall Street for sure, right? And
Hmm.
so I started watching these movies with the information I learned from the book. And then I was like, okay, I think I get it. Let me try. And so I tried to write. And long story short, 14 months later, I got the phone call that literally changed my life, which was someone said, hey, 20th Century Fox is going to buy your script. do you have a lawyer? And Brad, I almost packed that, right? Because it doesn't happen like that for a lot of people. And I was fully
Yeah.
aware of that. But I felt like it was a sign that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And so I started writing movies. And you look like, I don't know how old you are, but I'm guessing you probably have seen a movie called Like Mike, which was had a little kid, Bow Wow, basketball, NBA,
Yep.
Michael Jordan shoes, right? So I wrote Like Mike, among other things. So I've been in the movie business, right? And along the way, I decided to be also become an entrepreneur. And so, years ago, back in 2013, I'll be really brief about this because I'm not plugging it, but I got an idea to start a men's grooming brand, and I called it Hammer and Nails Grooming Shop for Guys. And I opened it with one shop in 1,000 square feet back in 2013. 2014, I appeared on Shark Tank and I pitched my business, and the shark said it'll never work, and they were wrong. And a couple years later, I sold my first franchise in 2016, and today there's over 70 locations across the country. I've already exited the business, and long story short, I came back to writing. So, which is how I ended up back, like how I got to the puzzle space. So when I'm not writing, one of the things I always love to do was puzzles, but I don't do them that often. So last year, Brad, I'm talking to a friend of mine who loves puzzles as much as I do. And I just made a comment without even thinking about a business thing. I just said, you know, I no longer find puzzles that I want to do because
Hmm.
they all look the same, right? Like how many landscapes can you do, right? And so 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in the movie theater, which is, of course, my favorite thing to do on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the movie theater, I'm watching trailers, and I just thought, I wish there was a scene from a movie that I loved that was a puzzle, because that's a puzzle I do. And I knew in that moment, Brad, that that didn't really exist. Like we've seen, sort of artist interpretations, AI renderings of, we've seen puzzles that may have been inspired by a movie.
Hmm.
But Brad, I was talking about like the actual scene as a puzzle. And so that was my light bulb moment.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and my family has a lot of puzzles. We do a lot of puzzles. I have two young kids.
Yeah.
My son is really
Mhm.
into puzzles. Mostly, we have a puzzle board and everything that we do them all
Wow.
on, and
Mhm.
we've got a lot of puzzles that are, and they're mostly movie puzzles. But the thing that's different,
Yeah.
right, is that they are posters or logos or a collage of
Yes.
characters,
Yes.
stuff like that. That's fine. That's good and all. But the thing that strikes me as obviously different here with cinema puzzles is the fact that you're able to pull out a moment in time from a movie, put
Yes.
it down on there, and honestly, I don't see that ever. So like, I think that's really cool that you're able to do that, and you strike up a conversation. You notice little things about the scene that you've
Yeah.
never noticed before. Like, as a podcast, that's what we do all the time, right? That's we are looking for
Yes.
all these details, and I love that. You can find some of your favorite sequences of any movie, that
Yes.
are that you have, and just be like, that's the one I want to
Yes.
make. I want to put that up, because a lot of
Yes.
people will not just put a puzzle together; they'll frame it, or I don't know how they do it. I got to look into
Yes.
this now because there's a great
Well,
opportunity here.
yeah. Well, funny enough, you mentioned something that I think is really important, which is, there's details, right? Like, obviously, I love movies, so all the details I typically think about because I come up with stories from thin air and I have to turn them into sellable movies, right? And so as a
Mhm.
screenwriter, I have to think about what you're seeing, right? But when you mentioned the word details and what I thought about, because I'm looking at something in particular. So I'm about to show you, you may have, of course, you've seen this scene, but there's a scene in the first Jurassic Park where the doctor guy, right, is showing them this egg and basically showing them a dinosaur hatching, right? So if you watch the movie, you watch the scene and it moves on to the next scene, right? They cut away or whatever. But I'm sitting here because I was going to show this to you. But when you see it as a puzzle, the detail of that image is frozen in time. Like Brad,
Oh
look at
yeah.
that. Like you see, like where have you ever seen it like that? Right?
Yeah.
And
I I
yeah,
love
and
that.
so I was like, when I got the idea, I thought, well, the only way I could do this is if the studios would give me not just the license to do them, but they would have to provide me with those images, which is what I wanted. Like, I wanted it to be authentic. And honestly, Brad, I was like, who do I know? Like I've been in the movie business, but this part of the movie business is not my wheelhouse. But I
Mhm.
was able to, you know, make the right contact at a studio level like Universal, and I pitched them this idea. And fortunately, with my background as an entrepreneur with the men's grooming space, they were able to go, okay, he loves movies. He has a vision for creating a premium product, which we care about, and he has experience creating a business even in a space he doesn't know about, and they were the first studio to
Oh
go,
wow.
we're in. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, because yeah, you have to approach the studio. You have to,
Mhm.
hope that they're open to the idea.
Yes.
And was Jurassic something that like they pitched to you, or were you like, hey,
Yeah.
we got to get Jurassic because like it's honestly it
No,
is one of
no.
the biggest franchises out there. You know?
Yeah, well, here, and I'm going to be completely transparent. I thought if I could get one studio to give me the rights to one movie, even if it wasn't like Brad, I was never thinking it would be a blockbuster, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking much smaller. I'm like, if I can get one scene from a movie that didn't even do well, I'm willing to put this out there because it's a puzzle that I would want to do because I love movies, right? So when I engaged with Universal and talked to them about this idea, they basically came back to me and they said, okay, here's what we could do. Take a look at this list and let us know what titles you want from this list. And Brad, when I saw Jurassic on there, brother, listen, it wasn't just Jurassic. So just
Yeah.
to be clear, right? I have Jurassic Park. I have 4 scenes from Jurassic Park as cinema puzzles. I have 5 scenes from Jurassic Park 3. I have 2 puzzles from the Lost World Jurassic Park. I have 5 puzzles from Jurassic World. I have 3 puzzles from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, another 2 from Dominion, and 2 from Rebirth. I have the whole saga, and I couldn't be more excited.
That yeah, that is amazing. I do have the website here, in which you made it easy, to go to the website and you can just kind of go over,
Yes.
scroll over. You can look through all of them if you want, but you can
Oh,
also choose
wow.
by franchise there, and then it cuts it
Yes.
down to all
Yes.
the
Yes.
puzzles here, and you've got them all. Like they're
Yes.
great. There's a few pages of
Yes.
them, and I love that,
Yeah,
as I was
man.
scrolling through, and you mentioned it just now, like, there is Jurassic World Rebirth in there, the latest movie
Yes.
that we have, so I think
Yes.
that's
How
pretty
cool is
awesome.
that?
I love seeing these sequences, there's so many great shots, and yeah, you guys were kind enough
Yeah.
to send over, one from
Mhm.
Fallen Kingdom, which was, let me
Yes.
get back to that,
Yeah.
this one here, which I
Yes.
I actually have, like,
Brad,
somebody's artwork
I
on the wall of this moment too.
wow. Brad,
Uh,
I personally picked that puzzle that you're holding. I mailed that. That was me. Like I
oh,
was
thank you.
thinking, like, if he loves Jurassic,
Uh-huh.
What, and by the way, it's not like I had every single one of them like in my house. So I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
man, like of the ones I have, what would make him smile? And I'm so glad that's the one
That one,
you
that
held up.
that one definitely made me smile because I love that moment so much. It's just and I always talk about it with that movie. It felt like when I was a kid playing with the toys. You know, I had the toys from the original movies,
Yes.
and I would sit in my basement or my backyard, and I would create these scenes. And dinosaurs are always surrounded by like apocalyptic scenarios, like with
Yeah,
asteroids and
you're right.
explosions and volcanoes. And to see that on screen, that was just like kind of like a dream come true kind of moment. So that's an awesome one. You also
Right.
sent over this one too, which is just it's
Yeah.
one of the it's such an
So
awesome
funny.
scene because it's a funny sequence, but it's also like very
Yes.
deadly serious and I love it. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
great one. And it also the fact that it showcases like the animatronic
Yeah.
puppet. It's not just this one is
Yes.
is all, the CG creations and
Yes.
stuff. Probably there might
Yes.
not be a real lick
Yes.
of like any real human
Right.
element to that at all, but this one is real. Like you're seeing the elements
Yeah.
there, and I love that. You get to see the wire going around the tree and the puppet there. I think
Yes.
that's awesome. So that's a great
Thank
sequence,
you.
and yeah, with a
Thank
puzzle,
you.
you have to. I'm assuming with a puzzle, you have to kind of come up with a sequence that's going to be unique to put together for people as well, right?
Yeah.
It's not just going to be cut and
Yeah.
clear, so it has to be something unique. Is that a thought process
Yeah.
going into this?
Yeah. Yeah. And also one of the things I thought about was, sometimes, and by the way, I had to learn the puzzle business. So what I'm learning is, for example, that there are some puzzles that are essentially four pieces that are just
Hmm.
repeated. The image is different, but the actual
Okay.
pieces is just four, right? And
Yeah.
so I thought about wanting each piece to be unique, right?
Hmm.
And I thought about, like, I started thinking about, like, like I wanted this to be something that, like one of the things I learned was like older people, like, could, like my mom could benefit from doing a puzzle, right? For because what it does, right? And so
Mm.
I started thinking about, like, I wanted a puzzle that would be gift worthy. And so I thought about that. Like I thought about, well, I want a certain box. I want the box to feel a certain way, right?
Yeah.
I want when you open the box, I want it to feel experiential. I wanted the puzzle to be in a
Yeah.
velvet pouch. And I thought about things that, like, honestly, Brad, aren't the most cost effective, but I wanted the brand to be sort of reflective of a love of storytelling.
Mhm.
And so those are the types of things that I thought about. And one of the things I haven't done yet, because literally this is a new business. The site just went live Tuesday, but I think about the opportunity to create things that for collectors, right? Because obviously, like yourself, you are a collector, and there's collectors, but there's also people who just love puzzles, or just people who just kind of like movies, right? But for the
Mhm.
collectors, one of the things I have the opportunity to do, Brad, is like create, like, these are the ideas. And by the way, if you come up with an idea and you're like, hey, Michael, you should try this, but these are the kinds of things that I've been thinking about, which is, imagine a scene from, say, Jurassic, and this particular puzzle is limited, right? There's 500 of them. And what's unique about them is, for example, imagine if, this is, I'm freestyling here, but this is an example of what I mean. Like in this scene right here where the egg is hatched, right? Where there's like 500 of these, and inside this particular puzzle, there's a shape or shapes that are unique to the image.
Mm.
And so thinking about, like, pieces and elements of a traditional puzzle that you would typically not see, and not to do them for everyone. It's not like every puzzle, but to create things that are unique for certain images. Maybe there's an image or a scene from one of the movies that is, only on 100 puzzles. Period.
Mhm.
End of story. There'll never be more than 100. So there's an opportunity to really have some fun with this concept.
I know, yeah. I love the idea, the experience of it too, with the slipcover featuring,
Mm.
the movie, but also, showcasing that, hey, this is legit. We worked with Universal
Yes,
to get all of these items. And
yes,
yeah, that
yes,
package there with the slipcover
yes.
thing, it's awesome. So yeah, that's great. I
Yeah.
love this experience. And yeah, the look, you've got a bunch already. I'm thinking of ideas in my head. I'm like, man, what would I like to see from? And I was
Yes,
going all over the place. I'm like thinking of all, because like that's what we do here, right? That's what we do is,
yes.
sometimes we do an entire podcast about like a specific scene, and it's just like, hey, I've
Mhm.
been doing this on this show for 11 years now. So sometimes you run out of
Wow.
ideas, right? But
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
fine tune and talk about like the specifics, and I love that. So there's a lot of
yeah.
opportunity for just a franchise like Jurassic, and you've got like Wicked out there as
Mm.
well, which is another awesome one that I
Yeah,
love too. So you got a lot of opportunity
yes,
here. I do want to ask
yes.
you, like,
Mm.
do you have any backstory with Jurassic? Do you remember seeing it for the first time, or did you read it, or any of that stuff?
So I didn't read it, but the first
Hmm.
first of all, I'm a big fan of Steven Spielberg, of course,
Hmm.
right? And so Jurassic for me was, I think all young people or people in general would say it felt bigger than life. It was like the only place I would see these characters and these animals, and for me, it was just so believable. I don't know about for other people where you're looking and you're
Oh yeah.
like, you just so aware this isn't real. But for me, like the moment of when the Jeep goes in the gates and the first time the dinosaurs are walking by, it felt like a whole different world. And obviously that was the objective of the people behind it. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to be in the movie business.
Yeah. I was looking
Yeah.
through all the puzzles, and I love that you included Jurassic Park 3, because or whoever
Mhm.
Universal, decided on these two, but like
Yes. Yeah.
I love these images because we don't get enough of this creature. So to have a Jurassic Park
Yes.
3 Spinosaurus as a puzzle, the
Wow.
Spinosaurus is
Yeah.
like, and I think a lot of Jurassic fans are collectors and they are fanatics about specific dinosaur types. So the
Mhm.
Spinosaurus is one of those dinosaurs that people go crazy over. And to have these up close
Interesting.
shots, and this was like,
Yeah.
we've gotten some big animatronics in more recent films, but not as many. But
Mhm.
this was one of the most, the biggest, the scariest, the coolest animatronics. So to see it up close like this, that's
Yeah.
so cool. And I think people are gonna love
So
putting together like that one
yeah.
specifically, or these ones. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear because those 2 that you're referring to, these images, I personally pick these images, but my what I was doing was I was thinking about for people who love, because think about this particular scene, there's no humans in it. It is
Hmm.
all about the Spinosaurus, right? And I remember thinking about, and not knowing I was gonna meet you in the future, but I was thinking about the people who know and love dinosaurs, that they would probably really think this scene with this clarity
Hmm.
would be a really cool puzzle to re-experience. So, I'm glad that it resonates with you.
Yeah, we're kind of losing some of that clarity these days with,
Yeah.
old footage like this. You don't get to see that often, and
Mm.
I love that. So that
Yes.
is very cool, and to have, something from each one of these films is awesome. So, yeah,
Mm.
but I mean, we love the movies here, and I know like on your website, you talked about like that you love what happens in between the scenes, and like I've been saying, that's what we're podcasting about. Like we love what happens between the scenes. Is there like a movie or maybe Jurassic or some other film that you were always wondering like what happened in between this moment and the next? Because I know for Jurassic, there's one I'll say. The character Samuel L. Jackson plays Ray Arnold in the first Jurassic Park. He kind of
Mhm.
disappears. He goes away, right, to go reset the power or
Mhm.
something. And then the next you see of him, his arm's ripped off. You don't see him anymore. You only see his arm severed from the body.
Yeah.
So like you don't get that
Yeah.
scene. It's a scene that just doesn't exist. So
Yeah.
that's like one in
Right.
between these sequences that I would have loved to have seen. Is there a moment like that in any
Yeah.
film for you that stands out?
So, it's interesting. I don't know if there's a scene where I'm like, what happened in between? Only because, like, my lens is so unique because I actually write movies.
That's
And
true.
so for me, you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I think about the things that fans of movies don't really think about as it relates to why they love a movie or a character so much, right? Like
Mhm.
they don't think about the things that writers think about so that you would remember or you would be affected by a character, right? And for me, an example of that was so many of us have seen the movie Scarface, right? And when we think of Scarface, we think of, drug dealer, Miami, he wants the world and everything in it and all of that, right? But when I think of Scarface and I think of like the brilliance of two things. Remember the scene, if you remember the movie, where Tony comes home and he's got on a suit and he goes to his mother's house to prove to his mother that he did good. And he was seeking his mother's approval and she didn't approve of him.
Mhm.
And it was such a human moment. It's like, wait a minute. Here's Tony Montana. Within the first 5 minutes of the film, he's already killed someone. Like he's that guy. But he's also the guy that wants his mother's approval. And, like I think about like, wow, like the moments that are in these movies that we love that make these characters human. And
Mhm.
sometimes we don't really think about it. And to me, that's one of those scenes no one would say one of their favorite scenes is when in Scarface is when his mother tells him to get out of her house. But to me, that's how I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's a moment in Jurassic Park that stands out to me, and it's, you think Jurassic Park, you would think about the raptors attacking a T-Rex roaring, breaking out of its pen, big action moments, right? But I think one of the most
Mhm.
interesting moments is part of the writing of the film, and that's when all the collection of characters that you've come to know from the movie, they all sit down for a lunch and they're sitting in
Mhm.
this like dark room. There's a projector on in the background, projecting images onto the wall, and you get to see like the
Mhm.
pieces of Jurassic Park that could have been that never were,
Wow.
and they're having very intellectual conversation, and I think that is such like a stunning moment from a writing
Yeah.
perspective, but also just visually and
Yeah.
and thinking about those moments in between of like, wow, what could have happened? What would we have
Yeah.
seen if this had gone true? And what were these
Yeah.
characters thinking? I think that even from a puzzle standpoint, that would be an incredible puzzle to put together because, most people like share that around online and they're like, I didn't even know that they were
Huh.
showcasing these things in the background. So I think that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool moment that
Mhm.
stands out. And it's not even dinosaurs. There's nothing to do with
You're
dinosaurs
right.
other than the conversation. So
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I love these. I'm very excited for them. And hey,
Thank you.
congratulations on all of the hard work you put into Cinema Puzzles and for your upcoming marriage and everything. There's a lot to look forward to.
Thank you.
Any
Yes.
last words you want to say here before we head out?
I mean, I want look, what I'm about to say is the obvious thing, which is I would love for people who are listening who love the idea of iconic scenes from Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, to come to cinemapuzzles.com and see if there's a cinema puzzle that you like. And for parents, we have great options for kids as well, because all of the sort of animated hits that are non-Jurassic but are animated hits, like Shrek, for example, they're all
Mhm.
100-piece puzzles and the pieces are oversized. So if you love Jurassic and you would like the puzzles, come to cinemapuzzles.com. And, I'm excited about the future. My hope is that 3 years from now, Brad, when we watch movies, and we immediately think, I wonder if there's a puzzle for this movie, and that like it becomes a new category. And that's the hope. And so, but in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy every moment like this conversation. So thank you so much for having me, Brad, really.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't wait to put mine together. I'm excited.
All right. Send me a photo when you do it too.
I definitely will. I appreciate you coming on for a little bit to talk. And yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you so much for sending them our way. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what else comes.
All right, Brad. Thank you so much, buddy.